Hello 11A and welcome. We're now going to be working on 007 Part D. So can you go and get your books out for 007? We're going to be on Unit 5 and Part D. We're going to start preparing for our presentation. So preparing not the information for the presentation, but what would be required in order to make a strong or a good presentation. So please grab your books, open them up, make sure you've got a pen and paper ready to go. Your teacher should also have something printed out for you. So if your teacher doesn't have the printout, can you just let them know that they need to have printed out the 3D printing presentation? Just need one between two people. So one between two people, don't need one each. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start off with, have you heard of 3D scanning and 3D printing? If you have heard of it, what do you know about it? What do you think it might be? And what do you imagine are the uses of it? So just with a partner, I want you to jot down some answers to these three questions. Again, please just press pause for a couple of minutes while you answer those questions. Okay, thank you for pausing and answering those questions. Hopefully you did so. If not, I'm sure that you're all giggling, saying, aren't you clever that you just waited for Fiona to start speaking again? Okay, what I'm going to show you is actually 3D printing is pretty awesome and it's getting better and better by the minute. Here are some photos for you of what can be printed in 3D. So you've got a hand here. I've got a dinosaur there, little baby motorbike, which is cool. This is actually something that people can use, which is great. Sneakers, even a prosthetic ear. So there's a lot of medical uses for it. It is actually even possible these days to print a burger, 3D print a burger that is actually edible. So that's just crazy. So that's what you're going to be talking about throughout this lesson. Let's go back to our book. Okay. So what you guys are going to do, and you do need to make sure that you pause this. So if the teacher that is in the classroom, if you can please pause when I request you to do so. I'd like you to choose to be into groups of two. So please get into pairs, choose which pairs you're going to be in. If there's one person left over or two people left over, that's fine if you want to be in a group of three. So please just jump into pairs for me right now. Get your seats nice and close to each other before we move on to the next process. Next, I need to decide who is student A. So put your hand up right now. Make sure the teacher can see who out of your group is student A. So hand up, wave it about, student A. Next, if I can get student B, everybody that's in student B has decided to be student B. The other person, please put your hand up and wave it about. You are student B. I want you to get your books and keep it nice and close to your chest, okay? Because we're not going to share it with one another. And what I need you to do is student A, you're going to turn to worksheet to task 5.23 and look at student A. Student B is turned to task 5.23 and look at the student B in the appendix. What you have, you've got each part of the description of the process of 3D printing in note form. So the stages are numbered 1 to 8. But A only has some of the points and B only has the other points. So you're going to look at the notes on your worksheet and use the notes to create a natural spoken explanation for each of the stages. For instance, if person A doesn't have the first stage, that person might ask, what happens in the first stage of 3D printing process? So person B can say, oh, actually, the first thing that happens is. Then they might say, because person B doesn't have point 2, oh, so what happens next? So it needs to be a natural conversation in, you guessed it, Russian. No, Alice, not Russian. We would like to complete this in English, please. So I want you to go through that entire thing. Teacher, if you can please press pause now and give them time to actually go through the process and complete the process sheet 1 through to 8. So they just need to go to the back of their books and complete this process. When you're finished, we're going to go through the answers. Okay, guys, so hopefully you've completed that Again, it's good for your speaking practice to make sure that we've got that. Just to let you know that this is actually going to be followed by an activity about 3D printing. So it's really important that you've written these notes so that you can use it for your presentation, your PPT slide that you're going to make. So let's go through the answers. So the first thing that happens is virtual blueprint / pattern created. So pattern created, the computer-aided design software. Number 2 is the blueprint is sliced. So digital X sections, a basis of 3D print process. Number 3 is design pattern is transferred into the 3D printer, which results in an interface STL file. Then the machine creates a copy of the original object. So the X section design pattern. Then there's a start. So there's a deposit of layers of material. So we're building the bed or the foundation. 6 is the printer, and we build up the model from the bottom all the way up. So the digital X squares are just going in sequence to sequence to sequence, first, second, third, and then slowly building from bottom all the way up. 7 is further layers are added to the X section blueprint. They slowly build up the 3D copy of the original. And number 8, finally, the layers are added and the 3D model of the original is completed and printed. So make sure that you've got all of those correct, because you are going to be doing a presentation on this process. It's also great preparation for your process assessment when you're doing your written description. So pictures and diagrams are a great way to make presentations. So even when you're doing your presentation, which will be on your research topic, your research essay topic, we've got to think about things that we can do. So the following things could be used and also referred to. So if you're using a diagram, this picture, this graph, this chart, or this photo, and it shows, it demonstrates, or it illustrates, plus what it does. When you're actually introducing slides or PowerPoint presentations, you can use some of the following phrases to introduce your pictures and your diagrams. As usual, this is going to give you sort of a high level of vocabulary and make you more of a native English speaker. So things that you can say, I'd like to start with this photo of X, which shows, here you can see. Turning now to this graph, you'll see, the next diagram shows. If you look at this chart, you'll see that the next slide is a photo of, the next slide is a graph showing, or the next slide shows. So I'd love to hear you use these when you're actually completing this particular, the 3D printing process presentation, but also when you're doing your actual presentations for the final assessment of 007. So now for some fun. You are now going to work with your partner to give a short oral presentation using a PowerPoint, so using PowerPoint slides. So what I want you to do is you're going to plan the diagrams, pictures and slides that will illustrate or show you the 3D printing process for your presentation. I am going to give you time in class, so during your study sessions, you can have time to complete this with your partner. So feel free to jump online, try and find as much information as you can. Things I would suggest, getting videos, getting pictures, trying to work out ways to make it interesting. So decide on the pictures you'd like to focus on, and then decide how you're going to design and prepare your PowerPoint presentation. Then you're going to practice with your partner. So the last thing that you're actually going to do is I'm going to put you into separate groups. And so with your groups, the two of you will present to another two of you, and they will present in turn. And then they'll be able to give you some feedback using their peer assessment sheet. So you can see what areas you need to improve in before the presentation assessment. I'm just going to go to a document that I've created for you guys to help you prepare before you start your PowerPoint. So here I'd like you to put the names of the presenters, so the two people that will be presenting, and the name of the presentation. Don't call it just something simple as 3D printing. You might want to say, the future of 3D printing, or 3D printing, the way of medicine, or fast food, 3D printing, quick and tasty, or something like that. What resources can you use to make it interesting? Pictures, graphs, videos, anecdotes, interviews, pretty much anything. If you have an example of a 3D printer, feel free to bring that in as well. Think about how you should introduce your presentation, how you should conclude your presentation. So when you think about introducing your presentation, some of the biggest presentations I've seen have started with sort of fireworks and big, really loud music. The presenters come in, and it gets you really excited and really interested. You might want to do a Stephen Jobs and have all of the lights turned off, and then poof, your presentation comes up on the smartboard. Immediately the audience are interested, you watch a short video and then lights come on and in the presenters come. So trying to put a bit of drama in it, trying a bit of excitement in it. And how to conclude it. You want the audience to be excited and want to buy your product, which might be a 3D printer, or to be interested in your product or invest in your product. And is there anything else that would make it interesting? Just a little hint, in Tangshan, when I taught over there, I had some students actually decided to use one example of 3D printing to make it more interesting to the audience. One person talked about 3D printing chocolate, and at the very end of the presentation, she actually gave the other group some chocolate to eat, which she pretended had come from a 3D printer. So you might want to think about using an example of what 3D printing can do to make it more interesting to your audience. Another example, someone talked about 3D printing a prosthetic leg. So for someone that had gone off to war and unfortunately lost their leg, 3D printing enabled them to have that put in place. So it had a really emotional attachment. Please note that now I've given you those two examples. You may not use those examples, but there's lots and lots more examples that you can use. I'd suggest just Googling the wonders of 3D printing, and there's going to be lots of cool stuff there. Here I've given you some slide planning. So you can look at your intro, I want it to look like this, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and however many you're going to have. Remember that there's 8 parts to the 3D printing process, so I would imagine you'd have a minimum of 10 if you're including your introduction and conclusion. So a minimum of 10 slides. These PPT presentations will need to be sent to me because I'm going to give you some feedback to help you for your final presentation class for the actual assessment. So if you do a really good job, I can see that you're really strong with your PPT. If you do a terrible job, I'm going to be pretty worried. Okay, so that's all you need to do for today. Please work on this over the week, and next week we'll actually be presenting these through to your partners. Please don't copy or cheat off one another, keep to yourselves, make it more interesting, exciting, and the best PPT, I'll bring a little prize back from Australia, or maybe even send you something online while I'm still stuck here. Anyway, thank you for listening, as always, on WeChat and available for any assistance or suggestions or requirements. And I will see you in the next class. Thank you.